forms, like teeth and things with hard edges, like that in that cheekbone right there. What I'm doing is I'm selecting with the selection tool. I think it's the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm just kind of selecting around the bone structures or the pieces of flesh or whatever that are sticking out that I want to highlight, that I want to like extrude. I'm selecting that, and I'm using the gradient tool to put some highlights in. So it's like wherever the light source is coming from, I'm coming from that way with the color of the light on. I think the layer mode was screen usually, and hard light also works really well too. But that's really great for, like I said, really pulling out that, the bone structures and the flesh, and it looks really good. It gives it kind of this this ambient occlusion kind of look. It gives it a little bit of realism, makes it pop out, it looks a little 3D. So, and now I'm working on those claws, trying to make them look, huge. And in the foreground. And it's a little bit, it was interesting because something I've always, until kind of recently, I guess, had a little bit of an issue with is making the size, and I think a lot of beginning artists also have this problem too, and a lot of artists in general maybe, but with detail, it can be painting breaking if the size of your detail doesn't match the size of your object or where your object is in the space. If your detail looks too big for something that's supposed to be far away, it's going to look really awkward. And that's something that's really difficult to actually kind of figure out because it's really a kind of something you have to figure out with trial and error. What looks good, and doing a lot of photo reference and things like that. An atmospheric perspective is very important. Figuring out how the atmosphere interacts and hides detail as things go further away is very interesting. It's a very interesting thing to study and read about. I still do, constantly. I'm always looking at how things, if I'm looking off into the distance or whatever, I'm always thinking about how the atmosphere and the light is obscuring that detail. And the colors too. The colors also are distorted a lot by distance. So that's something to always keep in mind, especially for landscapes. But here, even though it's not really a landscape, I'm trying to give the impression that the monster is like, it's huge, but it's still far away, kind of. Close enough, but far enough away that it's starting to get that blue tinge of the atmosphere, which is what I'm doing right now, actually, with the gradient tool and a soft brush. Gradient tools and soft brushes, just a big round soft brush on a low opacity. You don't normally want to just straight up paint with that. Sometimes it's good to do if you're like trying to get if you're trying to soften out some hard edges, but you want to be really, really careful because it can make your painting end up just looking really muddy, which you don't want. But they're really, really good, the gradient and soft brush, for keeping an atmosphere. And that's basically the only thing you should use for them until you get to the point where you feel comfortable blending colors and values basically by hand, just with the hard brushes that you normally use. Which is how I kind of learned it, and it was really time consuming and really freaking hard, but by the end of it, I was able to appropriately use the soft brushes, and it was under control. And just painting in some specular highlights now. It's a good thing to add a little bit of realism as specular light. I know I've mentioned a few books already. I'll leave them all in the description for you guys to look at. These are books that I feel have given me extremely helpful insight into painting. The book is called Color and Light by James Gurney. And he talks a lot about the properties of light and color, and obviously, I mean, it's in the title, but he talks a lot about that. He talks about how this stuff actually works and the illusions, and like how the eye interprets color and light, and it's extremely helpful for getting that extra realistic edge. And of course, I know I've said this a million times, but again, study, study, study. Study as much as you can. Do paint-overs of photographs and master paintings. I know that's something that a lot of artists do to kind of figure out the old master ways and the way they used to think when they were painting. But photographs too. You just run the danger a little bit of filters that people apply to the photos, which you don't want. You definitely want to avoid that if you can. And just because cameras just interpret colors differently than the eye does. So if you have a really good, expensive camera at home, then definitely go out as much as you can and snap photos anytime you see some crazy color situation or anything like that. That will help, and just study from them as much as you can. There's definitely no easy way to learn this stuff. So my recommendation would be, I know you probably hear this a lot, but my recommendation would definitely be to stop looking for, all the Photoshop techniques, and though I'm sharing a few of them with you in this video, which I hope, ends up being helpful. That's just understanding the program and understanding, it's understanding a little bit more about what I'm thinking when I'm doing this. No one really feels like, necessarily doing studies and reading books about practicing every day, but you gotta practice every day. I mean, you don't have to pull all-nighters every night. I think your sleep is very valuable. 8 hours every chance I can. But just make sure that it's all planned. Doing this stuff that no one else wants to do is the first step to you getting ahead. If you don't really want to do it, chances are most people won't want to do it either. Most successful people still don't want to do it. The trick is that they have the habits. They have conditioned themselves, do their studies and practice and really dedicate themselves to it. And they don't always want to do it. I mean, of course they don't. But that's the reason they're ahead. That's the reason they're ahead, is because they do that stuff and no one else wants to. It's not because they were born better at it or something like that. I mean, I I was not born good at this. I mean, I still think that I'm not, I'm okay, but I've still got a ton to learn, and, so does everybody. But the hardest part is the first step. So just, you can do it too. I mean, anyone can. But most people don't, because it's difficult to really make yourself do the stuff you don't want to do, and really just stick it out and be tough. And, if you drudge a little bit longer and just keep going, then it'll come to you. So just get out there and do it. And you might end up even liking some of the things. I mean, it's really hard sometimes to want to leave your computer desk and actually go out and do life drawings in the hot sun or whatever. But I've actually found it to be very not only rewarding, but refreshing, and it's fun because I'm learning a lot, and it's not like I get to see new stuff and I get to do something different for once. It's good to walk away from the computer, every once in a while. You can't sit there all day, and I'm very guilty of it, but getting out and taking a break and enjoying life also really informs your paintings and your art. And plus it keeps you refreshed and wanting to do this stuff. So, and right now I am working through that issue that I talked about earlier in the video about not wanting the boys there to disappear into the monster because the monster is so attention grabbing. So I wanted them to have a little bit of attention too. Really thinking about that stuff. So I'm adding a really bright specular light on the, and specular, I guess I didn't explain it earlier, but for anyone who doesn't know, specular light is the kind of white light that bounces right off the surface back at you. So if you're looking at a shiny red apple, the specular light is the little white shine that you see on the apple skin. The rest of it is diffuse light. And that's just light that's kind of scattered through the atmosphere. That's less concentrated and reflects less directly into your eye. So anyway, I'm adding that